Hope you love the channel and find it useful in becoming a happy retiree. Subscribe today. Finally, we get the nuances, or at least the proposed nuances, of the brand new tax reform proposal by the GOP. So we have and not to mention, we have a new Fed chair announcement, new chair of the Federal Reserve. So Janet Yellen's term is up. Looks like we have a new fella in town, Jerome Powell, as long as he gets confirmed, which he probably will. And not a whole lot of change there because he is supposed to be more of the same, which is good news. We don't want to upset the apple cart when things are actually doing pretty well. Remember, only a few days ago, we got another reading on GDP, another 3% read. So the U.S. economy in the first quarter, the second quarter, the second and third quarter, actually in the 3% range. So we want to continue this economic growth that is just speeding up from the 39 mile per hour economy that has been sluggish and frustratingly slow for so many years. We may be breaking out of that, and we want that to continue. So massive news flow this week, let's call it decent economic data. We had a jobs report on Friday, 261,000 jobs. Unemployment rate still at 4.1%, or just ticked down to 4.1%. Wage growth, though, in this last report, not a lot of wage growth. So that is still a thorn in our economic side. September data revised just a little bit higher. So again, the job picture still good. Not fantastic, but I would say decidedly solid. So massive news flow for the week, and the market. And let's talk about the market for just a minute here. Just this relentless rise continues on the S&P 500 and the Dow, of course, actually ticking up even higher than the S&P 500 for the week. Dow up about 0.5%, S&P 500 up about 0.25%. Year to date, Dow up 19, the S&P 500 up 15.5%. without a whole lot of correction. So it's been this remarkable rise, non-euphoric rise, though, which is an interesting circumstance as the market has just plodded higher, and crept higher without a whole lot of fanfare. I'm not seeing party hats coming out for this market, but as an investor so far, so good, we'll take it. I also want to address, so we're talking about taxes. Of course, this market continues to move forward, even with every step of the way as Congress comes out with new details. You hear of this congressman is on board, this congressman is not on board. Trump says it's going to get done. I believe it's going to get done at least by the first quarter of 2018. So I want to talk about the new tax reform proposal. I know we've had several shows about it, but there are some surprises that have popped up now that the details have come out in the bill finally. Remember, we haven't gotten a whole lot of detail in the last year. We've talked about it. We've gotten these one-page bullet-pointed examples, big picture stuff. Here we're actually getting the nuances, the tax brackets, who's going to be impacted, and I want to go through that. Also today, I want to address a new campaign that, now, I'm not on the new campaign. Maybe I'll be on the anti-campaign on this, but a new campaign that Suze Orman, of all people, is on. And she's out propagating the same Wall Street fear mantra. I like that. It's mantra and monster put together that we've heard for years from Wall Street. She wants you, and we're moving topics, and we will get to tax reform in the bottom of the half hour, but I want to get to this first. She wants you to work until you're at least, and she actually says, and not a day sooner, until you're at least 70. Yeah, age 70. And she says not a day before. So she wants you to work till at least 70 and maybe even longer. And as someone, and this is now coming from my perspective, I've spent the better part of my career and my life trying to help people retire sooner, not later. So I take serious issue with Suze here and what she's saying. She has built really an amazing career. She talks about retirement, financial freedom, financial success. You've heard her. You've maybe seen her on her CNBC show. And now there's a big article in Time about this. She's on the cover of Money Magazine talking about this and telling everybody that they should work far beyond the typical retirement age. Perhaps, in fact, the way I interpret this is she's pretty much saying, hey, you got to work until we die. The article's titled, Suze Orman says, this is the age you should retire, not a month or year or day before. And that age is age 70. And that bugs me because I'm trying to help people to pay off mortgage, get financial freedom, and do it as soon as possible. And when I wrote you're going to retire sooner than you think, in my mind, that was 64 or 62. That was pretty early, maybe even 60. And over the years, that has crept even younger as Americans have gotten more and more serious and more diligent about trying to hit the retirement button, even into their 50s. Now, there's a couple things I do agree with. One example, she says you got to pay off your mortgage before you retire. Of course, I wrote a whole chapter in my book about that. But And I typically don't take issue with Suze's advice, but this time I think it's different. So this concept to retire at least at age 70, in my opinion, it's not sensible. At least that's not a good date to shoot for. And a lot of times it's not even really possible. So it's an unrealistic goal for a lot of people. So Suze's suggestion that you work until you drop isn't really new, though. And that's why I take issue with this, because it's kind of this is a joke that I'll say in financial planning that Wall Street propagates and has for years. How do you not run out of money? Well, the answer is you work until you die. And that's basically what Suze Orman's saying here. So the advice is basically this lazy thinking that you just kind of, everybody's got to work until age 70. I just don't really think that makes sense for a lot of people. And remember the reports, and you've heard these, there's plenty of articles out there that say, hey, you've got to have $1.5 million isn't what it used to be. You got to have 2 million. Not long ago, an article on CNBC popped up that said you need at least 2.6 million for the average American to retire. Again, that freaks people out because most Americans are just trying to get going and get out of debt and get started with their savings. And then these big numbers come up and they make you feel as though you can't even get into the game, let alone retire. So a lot of people just stop and they don't do anything. And that, I think, is a problem. That's part of this cross current. And and a lot of it starts with the fear that Wall Street propagates that says, just keep saving. It's never enough. Keep saving and keep working. And then that's the best way not to run out of money. Now, I hear a couple of the main points that she's saying and why I take issue. The first thing that Suze says is you've got to delay tapping Social Security until age 70. So she says you should choose to delay Social Security, not take it at 62, which would be early. Don't wait till 60. Don't start at 66, which might be your normal retirement age or full retirement age. As for the younger folks I'm talking to on your Social Security statement, it might be 67 before you get to your normal retirement age. He's saying, no, don't wait. Don't do it that soon. Wait all the way until you're age 70 before you take it. I want to run those numbers and tell you when that payoff or when you actually break even for all the years you choose not to collect Social. So you don't do it at 66, 67, 68, 69, you wait. So if you left all that money on the table with Social Security, how long does it take you to get that money back or break even? Well, I guess to some extent, if you work until you die, no big deal. I'm not saying you're going to die until age 70, but here's what's wrong with this advice. So let's say you wait on Social Security, her first piece of this, until age 70. And let's say your benefit's $1,500 a month at age 66. You choose not to take it because you want a higher benefit at age 70. That's $18,000 a year you're not taking it. Multiply that by 4 years, you've left $72,000 on the table. Once you hit age 70, you start collecting a higher payment. You were holding out for this higher payment, but it's going to take you more than 11 years before you just to break even on the money that you missed out on. So for a male, that brings you to age 81, which according to Social Security Administration's actuarial life table, that's about the age you're expected to live until. So you break even at 81 and then you die at 84. That doesn't sound like a great way to maximize your retirement years to me. Now, there's a lot of other considerations to wait to age 70. A big consideration has to do with your surviving spouse benefits. So if your spouse is a lot younger, you may want to consider waiting till 70. But saying that everybody should wait until age 70 or their 70th birthday, I think it's misguided. And I think it's very much one-size-fits-all advice. Now, the second piece of this, lay the foundation to work longer. Yeah, listen, most companies that I know of are trying to usher people out in their mid to late 50s, early 60s, because they want to hire younger workers to do your same job at a lower wage. So that's why we keep hearing about buyout packages to say to your boss, hey, at age 64, hey, I want to work 6 more years. I think that's a tall order. I saw this everywhere over the last week. It's at the cover of Money magazine. There's 4 different articles about it. There's Time magazine about it. And Suze Orman's coming out and saying, look, you got to work till 70. She says, delay Social Security until age 70. I don't agree with that. I already talked about that in the first half hour. Tell your boss you want to work till 70. Again, that's typically not a very easy conversation and it's not really possible for a lot of people and a lot of workers. And 3, she says, okay, enjoy a secure retirement. Well, that makes sense, secure, but you're skipping your 60s if you do that. And I work with a lot of families that have retirement can be great, 70 and on, 70s, 80s, that's fine. But you're missing what is a magical decade. And that's the decade of your 60s. Would you rather spend that doing 50-hour work weeks or doing the things that you love to do most? And that's why I take issue with his advice. And you know this, there's no such thing as one-size-fits-all approach to what we do here, retirement planning. And if you can get to a place of financial or retirement freedom before 70, I want you to do it. Even if it's a year or 2 before that, I want you to do it. It's not as relentlessly as impossible as Suze Orman would tell you or have you think. Hi, I'm Wes Moss, and thanks for taking a minute to hear about what's so different about my new book, You Can Retire Sooner Than You Think. So unlike other retirement books, this book will give you a step-by-step guide, whether you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s, to learn from what these successful and happy retirees did to get there. I hope you enjoy the book, but more importantly, I know that it'll help you retire sooner than you think.